Welcome to the Temple Geek podcast. Kari couldn't join us tonight, so I will be your host. My name is Maria, and we will be discussing our thoughts on Dune Prophecy. If you haven't watched the show, save this episode for later and come back because there will be spoilers. If this is your first time tuning in Temple Geek podcast, welcome. The Temple Geek podcast has been around since 2012 and hosted by various geeks from the Temple of Geek team. Here we cover all manner of geek and pop culture news and events. To our returning listeners, thank you again for tuning in. We really appreciate you being here. With me today is JJ, or Cat Lady JJ. Welcome to the podcast. Can you briefly introduce yourself to our listeners and tell a little bit about yourself, even though you're like a returning guest?
Again, I'm really happy to be here.
You're always returning. Your knowledge is so important.
Thank you so much. Every time I can collaborate with Temple of Geek and you guys, it's a no-brainer for me. I really enjoy these episodes. Love Dune, obviously. Oh my God. I make content on TikTok mostly under Lady Dragon JJ. I talk about A Song of Ice and Fire a lot, but also other fandoms, Star Wars, Dune, anything that's in pop culture. It's fun. Anime lately, I've been into that. So you can also find me on Blue Sky under same handle. And those are the two most active apps that I have right now where you can find me. So I'm happy to be here. I can't wait to talk about this episode. So
no, it's so great. Like your Game of Thrones knowledge is so educational, I feel. And so is your Dune knowledge, especially for this show. We were just talking about this.
That is good. I'm a little rusty, but I can make my way around it.
Still like so much better than me, because as someone who's like such a novice to Dune, like I said, I was like Googling Imperium right before this we started recording.
Oh my God, you're hilarious.
But let's talk about our episode 2 for Dune Prophecy, the prequel for Dune. Thoughts? What are your general feelings about this episode?
So we finally get an intro, like into because the first episode didn't have it, and it gave me very much like Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, Westworld vibes, with like different shifting images, like dissolving into each other. I still have to like slow down and like look at each one individually, but I see familiar things in it. Obviously, the worm is there. We see Arrakis. We even see Bull, which is a huge part of Dune universe, representing the House Atreides, and like.
Oh yeah, that's actually. Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, good point.
And you see Bull like in the Dune movie with when Leto dies, like.
And Atreides is actually already part of the house. I know he's like a side character right now, so you're right. There should have been, because Atreides is technically part of the Imperium, like I googled before this. So yeah, maybe you think the episodes will like change the intro and then they will add like the Bull later, maybe?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they're gonna do like what Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon were doing. Every time like either a character or a dragon passes away, they update the threads.
I wonder. That'll be a really good point to like look into.
I'm gonna pay attention to the intros from now on. To me, like HBO always does really well with their music and the intros. Like you don't skip HBO intros pretty much on any show.
They're my favorite intros. They're my favorite. Yeah.
Even Sopranos, as simple as it is, I still remember it. I never skip a Sopranos intro. It's like they're known for that, and I think this Dune.
I even like the White Lotus intro.
Like, I still haven't seen that show. That's one of the one I watched.
As divisive as that show is, it has a solid intro. Like I can't help it. Like so, like you're right. They know what they're doing with intros for sure, 100%. That's a really good point. I really didn't realize that. Yeah.
Like you never, I have yet to skip like House of the Dragon, or now like the one I just saw. Like I'm gonna have to watch it again to slow it down and look at each image individually. But very exciting to have a proper intro. The first episode didn't have it when we watched it, so.
Very good point. Very good point. Did anything stick out about the intro that you think like was like a, I don't know, Easter egg maybe?
I'm going to have to slow it down. It's like right now my memory can't really, I just remember seeing the familiar images, like breaking into the Easter eggs. I'm going to have to like watch it again and really pause it and look at it, as I've done with like my Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon.
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense. But what did you think about the show generally, the episode generally?
So we talked about it, I think briefly in messages, like being 6 episodes, I think it could be a problem, I think, for the structure of the show, because Dune universe is huge and it's massive. And I think you can tell by episode 1 and 2, they're cramming quite a bit of information. A lot is happening, and like you don't have time to really process quite a bit. So it's one of those shows that I'm going to say to anybody listening or watching this, put your phone down, put your distractions away, like really pay attention to what's happening, to pick up on the names, to pick up on things. You're not going to understand every reference if you're not familiar with Dune universe, but I don't think that's going to matter. Like ultimately, we know where this is headed. Like even if you're just the most casual Dune watcher, you know it's about Bene Gesserit, about eventually birth of Paul and what he means for the order and for the world itself. So like that's your basic like knowledge that I think it's enough. But I also think you should watch Dune 1 and 2 to enjoy this better. But put your phone down. Put your phone down because like it is still very exposition heavy. That could be a good or bad thing. I don't know. I don't. I One of the criticisms that I have so far, even with this episode, is I'm having a hard time connecting with characters, like the way they I don't know how I would say, none of the conversations feel very natural, which again, when you're in like a formal setting, they're not going to have a lot of casual conversations, but like everything just feels like there's to me not a lot of tension. I don't know if I could describe it, like, like because the outcome, you're burdened by the outcome.
There's no, what is it, like the stakes aren't there.
Yet at least.
Yeah, like I feel like the stakes are. I always feel like I hate when shows do this. I hate when they have expected stakes because of you knowing the lore already.
Correct.
And I feel like that's where the stakes are built in this show. They're like, I already know where the stakes are heading, so they don't want to build the stakes within the episode I'm watching.
Like perfect example is like what's his name, Constantine, Emperor Carino's bastard son. Like
I have a lot of bones to pick with that character.
So far, it's a nothing character. I don't know anything about him. I don't care about him. And like he sees Pruitt's sister. I can't remember her name. I didn't even write it down.
Oh yeah, I just wrote her as the princess. I don't know her name either. And that's so sad because she's supposed to be a heavy
Pruitt's
character.
Sister.
Yeah, she's supposed to be a really important character apparently, right? But like I don't have that much interest in her, and I wanted to. I really wanted to connect with her, but
even when she says like, "Oh, I don't care about my brother dying. We grew up so separately. I have no connection to him." It's like we're getting all these crumbs of information so quickly and so jarringly. Like, and we're moving on to the next thing immediately.
And can I just say, I love how like the explicit scene is like a good like 4 minutes, and I'm like, you could have just cut a lot of like the thrusts and given us better heartfelt characters. And I know it's HBO, but still.
I don't know, this is going to sound very hypocritical of me, but I do have my reasoning. Like everything I do has like a method to my madness, I guess. Like I've been on this tangent that like to me, Western media is deeply passionless, deeply sexist. And when I say deeply sexist, I'm not talking about like nudity and actual explicitly characters having explicit sexual intercourse on screen. Like there's just lack of any sort of intimacy. There's no passion. There's nothing. So even when I'm watching these two exceptionally gorgeous people doing it, it's like, can we get it going? Can I get Desmond, please?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I actually have like a huge crush on that actor because he's in this show called Heartbreak High. And when I found out he was in this show, yeah, and like he's so dynamic and so interesting in that show, but nothing in like he's so boring in this. And I'm just like, you're just hot. Like they literally were just like, you're hot. Just be hot. And I'm like, it's very MCU. Like, oh, he has a perfect body and perfect face, and that's going to be enough to go like have a swoon. And it's like, no, like I would say like Desmond has like literally not taken off a single piece of clothing, but it's just like, oh my god, who is this man? Like,
I mean, Travis Fimmel is. He's got a lot of like that boyish boy next door charisma that translates really well into stuff that he does. But there's also a level of the way Kari puts it. I love it. He's so unhinged in everything that he does.
Oh yeah.
He's not afraid of the whole going completely method and like really ham on these characters. And Desmond is the kind of character that demands it. So like, I feel like the show at least these 2 episodes are wasting too much time on things that are inconsequential. Essentially, like even if you bring was it Constantine? I'm sorry, and the girl Pruitt's sister, like, but build that bond between them because again, he's a bastard son, man. He's not going to inherit anything. She's just a second. Well, now she doesn't have a brother anymore, but like you could kind of like use those things to kind of build something between them.
And as a Game of Thrones lover, like, so I was like obviously like doing my extra research with this, but everyone kept comparing him as a bastard son to Jon Snow. But I'm just like, yeah, but Jon Snow was still developed. Like they still like. So I'm like, if he's supposed to be the Jon Snow of this show, I'm just like, it's just like
Jon Snow. I don't.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a very big extrapolation, so I was just like, I wanted to pick your brain about it. But like, I don't know. He's such a. I feel like he should be important. He should be more important, and especially because he's the one that blabs that Desmond is the one that ends up killing everyone.
That's
So
right.
like
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
yeah, and so like he like I was like, you idiot. Like but like yet he has what it was his agenda. Why did he do that? Why would he betray his family? Like there's so many layers they could have added to it, but they made it as if it was like a nothing action.
Like just saying it, and like yeah, I don't think the comparisons with John are fair because bastardy, like within both worlds, functions differently. Again,
I feel like there's no intention. With John, we saw actual like action be put to like what his like backstory was. With Constantine, it feels like he's just acting. I have no idea what his connection to the like what is it, the Koreans or what is it, their last name? Carino. Yeah, I like their whole legacy with the Carinos, with his own sister, with his own father. Like, I why wouldn't he want to play a bigger game? So like him just like just yeah like oh ooh please tell do share please share. We can like yeah we can get into theories right away because I was like we can talk about Desmond too right away.
oh, and this theory just extracted from trailers, and if you piece certain things together, I think he's the son of one of the sisters.
Oh okay. Ooh,
What's
do you
the
know what sister? Do you know which sister?
It's the actress that plays Edwina, Charita.
Oh, Francesca Tabu. Yeah. So, by the way, that actress is a Bollywood
Oh,
actress. So,
older
like,
actress, yes, and
yeah,
the
she's
younger one
like
that plays her is
yeah, she
yeah.
is a legendary Bollywood
Okay,
actress. Like, I grew up obsessing over this woman. So, like, her,
really,
I'm wait, yeah, she's huge, and
that's
she's
awesome.
huge in Bollywood. So, like, I'm just like, all my friends are just watching it. They're like, I have no idea what's going on in Dune, but I just want to watch it because like Tabu's going to be in it. So I'm just waiting because she's supposed to have an affair with the father, right? Like, aren't they supposed to be
He
lovers?
is. I think she's Constantine's mom.
I think so too. And she's supposed to be Edwina's like older
Yeah,
version.
correct.
Right, yeah. And I was just like, wait,
Charita,
I had no
yeah.
idea that Chitra Chandan was in this either. So like, I don't know, that was like my highlight, but like they haven't been back. So and I know you guys talked about this in the last episode too. I'm really sad the younger versions of them haven't been back yet. So like I'm hoping they come back later because they are in the IMDb, but like
They got to do some flashbacks. They have to. I don't know how they're going to squeeze all of this in, especially with how everything is moving, especially like the implication towards the end. How they're going to squeeze all of this in within the 6 episode span. It's going to be very.
yeah, well so like since we're on so the main characters technically are like Valya and Tula, right? And like what how they're like how they're moving. And like so
Yeah, I would say Valya and Desmond are the two central antagonists.
and I will say the highlight for me, I want to just bring out that Kari did bring up that the highlight for her was Lila and Desmond and Michaela actually too as well, which I totally forgot about until Kari brought that up. But for me, Viola and Desmond interacting, oh my god, those are my favorite moments.
The only time I felt like the two characters had actually something between them, like when at the end, like we're jumping a little bit ahead, but when he's immune to the voice, the way Emily Watson's face and her eyes portrayed that shift from confidence into like genuine fear, like what did I just encounter? Who are you?
And this is the part of the show that like I don't even think I knew what I was expecting with Dune Prophecy because I just assumed that I would be watching the Bene Gesserit manipulate all these houses. But like with Desmond's interactions with them, with his like I don't know, just introduction, I'm like, okay, so it's actually the Bene Gesserit being like dismantled almost.
But see, let me go back to the what you just said. Literally, what you just said. So Bene Gesserit technically still doesn't exist. It hasn't been titled. Have you heard the term Bene Gesserit ever used within the show?
So what are they? They're just the sisters right now.
Essentially, at least in the Sisterhood of Dune book, they used to be this clan of witches, the sorceresses on planet Rozak, which there is a Rozak poison mentioned in this episode. And I wrote it down and I'm like, oh, they're doing this. This is definitely an Easter egg. So they formed essentially on this planet that's like a jungle, really rich with fauna and flora, you name it. That's how they were cooking a lot of stuff there, a lot of different poisons, different things. So essentially what the show, what Dune is saying is like, it's not just spice that gives you prescience. There's all these different mind altering drugs out there. One of them being coming out of Rosak, that planet. Because after Butlerian Jihad is done, essentially the sisterhood is dismantled by Haviko's predecessor. So a small group led by Rakela heads to Wallach 9 to form this small faction of sisters that we have now. So they're technically not called Bene Gesserit just yet. So and I think that's the ultimate like end game here is to title it Bene Gesserit and to tie it with Kwisatz Haderach, their ultimate prophecy, their breeding program ending in their version of like superior being.
Okay, so going off of this, the prophecy that Valya had, is that essentially like I actually am very confused with the whole prophecy that they're having and they're trying to avoid, because that's what's like kind of like being contradicted right now, right? She's trying to do all these things to like make sure they're protected and this prophecy doesn't come to light, but at the same time Desmond is now here kind of dismantling their whole like marriage ceremony, like the whole marriage setup that they had. Desmond messed that up, so like everything they're trying to do to like control the Imperium they can't do anymore. So is that the same prophecy as the like as the future? No, it's not, it's a different one.
It's a
Okay,
different one.
but you know what, like I think this is a very good time to talk about Valia and Desmond and like their interactions, because we had a few of them. I think it was very, in general, Desmond's been a build up. I thought it was very interesting how like Coriono and like even Natalia, they were talking about. I was actually very shocked that Natalia took Desmond's side. I don't know how you felt about that. It was just like, okay.
No, it actually made sense. Even if you remember in the first episode, I don't think she's very happy with with Haviko having the sisterhood on his side, especially if she is familiar that that Constantine is a child of Haviko and Francesca.
No, that makes so much sense now. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And I think if I remember listening to an interview or reading an article like that, Natalia was huge part of like his own like top like decision making process. He involved his wife into it, and then after Bene Gesserit or the Sisterhood and like puts their little claws into what they want, he sort of like is no longer listening to his wife; he's listening to the Sisterhood.
Honestly, I think Haviko is just is kind of spineless. I don't know. He just does not strike me as someone who knows what he wants or like acts on his own. Like, he's just so easily manipulated, in my opinion. So, like, I'm
When you compare him to Shaddam the Fourth, like in the Dune movies, who's a lot more like Christopher Walken is a lot more charismatic in my opinion, a little more like headstrong. Mike Strong, I think he's a great actor, and I think.
yeah, he was perfect for this role.
But I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Yeah, but like he's just like, it's so easy how like Desmond is playing him, Natalia is playing him, even like his own like I feel like everyone around him is like running circles around him and he's just like trying to keep up essentially.
He is trying to keep up. Like even like he has no control over his own planet. He needs Duke Richezzi's army and his ships to maintain control. And then Sisterhood whispered in his ear, his wife pushed him back. And then Desmond shows up out of nowhere. But I wonder if like the recording that he saw of Desmond being eaten by the worm is actually real footage or has been altered.
Okay, I'm so glad you brought that up because it's like I keep going back and forth because I want to believe in Desmond. I want to believe that he is this way, but it's just like it could easily be manipulated.
Mm-hmm. Why not? Why not? Yeah.
And isn't Dune a big, isn't it a big fable about like believing too much into prophecy and prophets? Like, isn't it the dangers of that?
Oh, that's literally the main theme of it. How easily, like the whole point of Dune, like one of the greater thematic elements is that we as humans, we are unable to almost evolve to our best selves because we're so constrained by either God and religion, technology, politics, like economic and social aspects of everything that makes us like exist. So we are constrained by all of that. And we attach ourselves whether to our religion, to politicians, to money, to spice, to whatever it is that we are unable to evolve ourselves past what we can be. And you see that with like mentats who are like a next step level human being. It's a human computer. Same with Bene Gesserit. The way they're able to like manifest like what they are, truth sayers, they can control people by using the voice. And none of this stuff is magic, which we have to get back to that, the magic.
That is such a really good point because, like, and again, this is what I love about Dune. Everything you just said so eloquently that, like, it is all about like the humans just kind of falling into our comforts of like religion and belief and not kind of being our best selves because of it. And then the idea of like it's
Oh
magic
God.
when it's really just manipulation. And
You
I feel like
literally,
that's what Desmond is, and he's using, and that's why like that whole like him being eaten by the worm. I'm like, I don't. It's so easy to. Why couldn't he have manufactured that image to make it seem that he was eaten?
the thing is, like, we're being a little edged on this. Like, I need an answer now on how is he able to burn two people across space and time.
I mean, I was gonna ask you. So-
It doesn't exist. It's not a thing in Dune, unless the only two explanations, he poisoned Pruitt and Kasha at some point somehow, or he implanted them with some technology that he's a robot himself, or at least part machine.
Do robots have that ability?
Can't have. Well, that's the whole point of Butlerian Jihad. The robots have evolved to a point of becoming thinking machines set out to destroy us, and they almost do until the humanity pushes forward and finally defeats.
Yeah, I never thought about the robot theory. That's a really good point.
I because here, and I say that because if you, okay, again, this episode is very Desmond heavy to why he did it, how he did it, but nobody actually gives us an answer. The only answer and I wrote it down right here. He said, Shai Hulud took my eye and gave me power.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he said. How? Because Shai Hulud doesn't do that. Shai Hulud is a provider of spice through this like chemical biological process. There's like pre-spice mass that explodes, and there's, I don't want to get into that, but like there's, even though it's like fake science, it is still science.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah. No,
Frank
because it's
Herbert
still
is not going
drugs.
to.
It's still
Correct.
drugs.
It's a very potent drug that will alter your body, your mind, your everything. And if you are a particularly special person, aka maybe a mother superior, Paul, Leto second, it can give you, or like Spacing Guild, it can give you, or Lila, awaken another thing in you. AKA, you can see maybe into the future.
So I'm glad you brought up Lila, because let's talk about Lila in comparison to Desmond. Because Desmond feels like he almost like manufactured his powers, right? But Lila was supposed to be inherently, yeah, it is painted out that way, you know. But Lila's supposed to be like born into this power, and yet she also is not exactly like doing the Harkonnen. Like I really actually enjoy her and Tula's like relationship, and but then like her like kind of like betraying Tula at the end. I was just like, okay, so like, what does that mean for Lila? Like, I actually like I rewatched that like part because I'm like, this feels like so significant because like Lila's supposed to be their answer, and like like I think Tula's supposed to be like mentoring her, and then it all just like kind of catapults into like completely going against what they wanted. So it's like it's so it just feels so synonymous with Desmond, because the scene right after that is Desmond and Violet like Valya like meeting, and her power's not working on him. So like I get chills just thinking about it, because I'm just like, what does this all mean?
So, like, to go back to what we said in the beginning, there's like these lack of relationships between characters. You feel that mostly in the Emperor's court, like between. Like, I wish they would do a little bit more with his wife, and maybe when Francesca comes into the picture, they'll do more. But like the sisterhood themselves, like it's itself like a concept, and all of the sisters themselves, like to me, is the best part of Doom Prophecy, and like, and you see that discord of dissent within the sisterhood already is like, is this for the sisters or is it for the sisterhood? So like, what are we sacrificing here exactly? Ourselves for the cause? But that takes away like the personal relationships that you have. Like Tula is seemingly giving Lila an option. I had a hard time, like, is she manipulating her? Is she using one of her Bene Gesserit powers to manipulate Lila into making the choice that she wants her to make?
Yeah,
Or
no,
or did Lila make this on her own accord?
because like her friends bring that up with her.
Hmm.
And I thought, so like I will say this, like her friends, I was not really interested in them first episode, because I'm just like, I feel like they're all in there for themselves. They're all like me first. But like the relationship between, was it Jen and like
Jen. I think it was
Jen,
Jen, yeah.
when she was just like, they're just using you. I'm just like, oh my god, finally someone said it. I was not expecting someone within the sisterhood to be like, they're obviously manipulating. They're literally teaching us that everyone manipulates, but doing it at the same time, which felt so synonymous for like the literal government that we live in.
Oh yeah.
But
Oh,
right,
100%.
yeah, the show is very like appropriate, I would say. But like Jen, and then her even talking to the other girl, I forget who it wasn't who went with Valya, but it was the other girl. Like her getting advice from all of her friends, it was really sweet to me because like Lila's obviously the youngest one. She's obviously like supposed to be maybe not weaker, but she's like still honing into her power. But like her getting advice from the people who are actually trying to like help out and like look out for her, just like gave a like actual stronger sense of sisterhood that maybe the four girls like Francesca, Tula, Valya had Kosha had together when they were younger, which that's another reason why I want to see them as younger because like it would be so great
Yeah,
to
no,
see
I
them
agree.
with that bond and then how it got corrupted. But yeah, no, I really appreciated like Lila's conversations with like Jen versus like Tula versus like everyone else because it's just like she just is a young girl, like she's just a girl trying to figure out what to do.
It's almost like the sisterhood is split between like the head and the heart, like the Valia being the head and Tula being the heart. Do I in a lot of ways I do believe in Tula's good intentions, like versus her sister, because Valia is way more ambitious and way more like prophecy driven, which is what makes her say, "Hey, go get Lila to undergo agony." I think this young woman was not going to survive. I'm sorry. The chances of her surviving that, I knew she would die.
Oh, no, I was not ready. I was not. I was just like, wait, I thought she was the main character. I was just very hard. I have hope, but I'm just like I did not expect her death.
You know, once you learn that she's Raquel's granddaughter, and then they're telling her you need to undergo agony for a chance to like access your grandmother's memory, so that we can learn more about the prophecy. Like, oh, she's cooked. I was like, I mean, no pun intended, no pun intended. Especially now because nobody's getting an answer to how is Desmond cooking the sisters and like conspiring.
Yeah, the pun was good. The pun was really good.
I felt so. I'm like, oh, if she goes undergoes agony, like she's gonna die. I just didn't know how far they're gonna take it. She's gonna die immediately because it's poison.
This goes into what you were saying. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Like this goes into what you're saying that like we haven't had enough time or development with these people, and maybe they're trying to say there isn't development with these characters, like especially with like Lila. Maybe she never had time to develop, and that's another reason why she wasn't ready.
6 episodes. It's huge ensemble cast. Like I always, it's always in the back of my mind whenever I see a character. 4 more episodes, and you still have a major conflict that happened with Desmond. And if you look at the trailers, there's a lot coming.
Yeah. Well, like we were talking about Constantine, like the reveal of his mother is still yet to happen. Like Francesca is still yet to be revealed. So like yeah, like there's a lot still cooking. Technically his sister too, like she hasn't really even hit her prime yet either. Like she was it's so funny how she was such a big character in episode 1 and then just backburnered this episode. She was like barely in it.
Yeah, that's it. And again, I keep that in mind before I like, oh, this is not enough. This is all because they're moving so fast. This is I've accepted Dune Prophecy as a series to be. This is just information piece to feed into Dune films, and I will get to that a little bit later, like of like what the future is gonna uphold. But I want to bring up one thing because I wrote it down. They ask Desmond what brought him to Carina House, and he says faith. He says faith, which I find very interesting. That he could be like a juxtaposition, like a an opposite of like Paul, because Paul Atreides is a religious figure. At some point, he will become Lisan al Gaib to Fremen because of Bene Gesserit's own manipulation for 10,000 years.
They decided to do this manipulation because of Desmond. Maybe they see the power of Desmond and then they're like, yo, we gotta do this ourselves. This is like us being like, you know what, the Democratic Party needs its own like radical person. Like maybe the Bene Gesserit deal with Desmond and they're like, you know what? We need to do this. We need to make our own prophet because there is something he said. There's a conversation about prophets. I can't remember the exact like lines they use, but he makes a conversation. No, oh yeah, I remember now. It was Natalia. She's like, "Are you a prophet?"
Oh, I didn't catch. How did I not catch that?
Yeah, and then oh, like, do you believe in prophets? Like, she brings it up to him. I love Natalia, by the way. Like, she's from Witcher. I don't know, like, she's like,
And Game of Thrones.
yeah. She is. She's such a good actress. So I'm just like paying attention.
Jodie May, yeah.
Phenomenal. The casting has been phenomenal. I will say, I'm like peak casting. Um, the show is literally carried on the backs of these actors, I will say.
Especially now, when you said the actress playing Francesca is huge in Bollywood. I don't want to butcher her name. Like that's big. Like her, Travis Fimmel, Emily Watson. She's a testament.
She's literally carrying the show. Like I literally just wrote powerhouse. That's all I wrote about her because she's so good in every scene she does. And so like I feel like the conversation I feel like Desmond plays it vague too because he's trying to manipulate everyone. But like the conversation of prophet and prophecy is definitely very much associated with Desmond. So like I feel like he's the inception of the idea that like, oh, we need our own prophet, control the powers.
I wonder if he's like the doorway entry into Kwisatz Like
Yeah, me too. I'm wondering if he's the catalyst.
yeah, I that or like I when I went a little unhinged in our group chat regarding some other like theories. If this show is tying into not just Paul, not just into Kwisatz but like beyond.
Yeah, which why wouldn't it tag into the beyond?
And and that's the thing. Like, what's the plan here? So you have Dune Part One, Dune Part Two. So that's one book, right? And then he will announce that he'll do Dune Messiah next, and that's it. He's gonna. So it's a duology. It's two books, but first book split into two. So like a trilogy, technically, of films, and he's done. He's not doing Children. He's not doing God Emperor. He's not doing Heretics or Chapter House. So I wonder now with this show being a prequel, like 10,000 years prior to current events, what if they do more series after Paul
And
into
I
God?
would love to see
Like,
that. Yeah.
me too. Like, if they're gonna do, imagine if they do series on God Emperor, if they go into the heretics, into the chapter house, like, because there's a lot of weird shit after Paul. Like, holy shit, he gets insane. So, like,
I know about his like
I don't even know
son.
how you would adapt that because I feel like this show, because if they're doing that, like I am so seated, I can't even can tell you, try not to curse. Like if they're like referencing, if they are referencing Leto's second instead of Paul here, are you fucking kidding me? That is so.
I do think because it's HBO, I low key think they might be doing long haul.
I think so too. I mean, I'm not gonna hold my breath and like expectations are tempered, but like if they are referencing like Tiran Arafil is literally something referenced in God Emperor. Like it's the last line of. I'm trying not to spoil too much here, but again, we are like going on a presumption they're going to be adapting God
Yeah,
Emperor.
this is still all episode 2, but this is also considering the books and the lore. So like I don't know if that's spoilers.
Because they mention Tiranarafil again. That's what they're trying to access through Lila because all they heard about it's reckoning, Tiranarafil, like what's coming. And with Desmond wreaking havoc, he's like, we need more information. So they have this poor girl undergo agony in which she will most certainly die. And at one point, I thought she wasn't gonna.
Yeah, I know. They really built that up. Oh, I thought she was gonna come back at the end. Yeah, they built it up. I really thought she was gonna come back.
Because I think this is such a clever way, and this is probably the best part. Like the way they did this is actually genius. You almost forget Dorothea, that being Raquel's daughter.
Yeah. No, I did.
I for a second I did too, because you know what? We were focusing on Lila's mom.
Yeah, I know exactly.
We were so focused on her mom, like you didn't even consider Dorothea.
The writing is there. It's the pacing, maybe.
Oh, it's going lightning speed. Like holy crap!
You have to rewatch it. Like I literally rewatched this episode like I think maybe 3 times because I was just like trying to process everything. Like the pacing is just a lot, but like they really do make sure the dialogue hits for those emotional beats for you as an audience to like assume and like predict what's going to happen and then only to just twist it and turn it.
They're they're packing it with enough mystery, even though like you know the outcome. Again, you have that burden of knowledge always. So HBO has a task to unload you from that burden and like take you somewhere else to kind of like give you like Bene Gesserit, but not really name it yet. Bene Gesserit. You know it's Bene Gesserit, but it's not Bene Gesserit.
This is the origin story of the Bene Gesserit.
Correct. And that's how they're gonna get their title towards the end.
And this is why I do think like this is when the accept like inception of the whole prophecy is going to start with Paul Atreides, and like it just points back to Desmond was the inspiration.
It has to tie into that. Ultimately, it has to, unless again, unless they're doing Desmond being like, there's a race of people called Ixians. They are very technology obsessed. They create technology. All the ships that you see, all the other high techy shit in Dune that you see, like they make that for noble houses for Landsraad, but they also like kind of secretly might be doing more thinking machine development too. So it gets a little tricky. So there's like prophecy beyond Paul by another character, like, which is what I was kind of going on a bit ham in our chat. Like, I wonder if they're referencing God Emperor of Dune versus Dune Messiah. So like, is this headed into Kwisatz territory, or is this a second? And
Going back to like talking about Dune prophecy with everyone's like misunderstanding or what they understood about Dune too, is that like a lot of people understood that like Paul is supposed to be the false prophet allegory, right? But a lot of people are just like, no, he's also the white savior allegory. Like there's just many like categories you can put Paul in. So I think it works on both levels because isn't Paul supposed to be the idea that like, oh, he's supposed to be the chosen one, but truly it's his son, right? That ends up actually being the one.
let me push back on a little bit on just within the context of like the whole Dune universe, like the white savior and the false prophet. Paul has powers; they are real. This isn't like a fake out of him. Like he can literally do what he says he will do, and he can see through future. Like he's not a, how would I say it? Correct, right? It's Bene Gesserit manipulating not just Fremen universe through their Missionera Protectiva to kind of insert lore, legends, tales. Oh, a savior one day will come to lead you to green paradise.
Which is technically what we're seeing the origin of, but like interpretation of if it's Paul or the one who actually, because it's supposed to be his son, right? The worm guy. I just know that someone becomes a worm, and that's usually taken. Yeah,
Also the Frank Herbert is also very much inspired by American pursuit of oil in Middle East.
yeah. Well, no way. I had no idea.
Right? So like
What?
you're right. The whole white savior, yes. But
Spice in the desert? What could that
he
be?
does it. What could that be? It's not oil that we so much depend on. Because he was a
You
like
mean
a
the spice that makes their like literal spaceships go? What? He was creative. Points for creativity.
but but the thing is, like, he does so well with Paul. See this now when you like. I don't want to get political, talk about this current election, but like you could tie things together. How easily we are seduced by somebody extremely charismatic, and when you build that like extra things into that persona, that cult of personality, which Paul is thrown into this without his consent. Like he's a kid, and all this falls onto his back. He undergoes, the
I cannot remember Javier Bardem's character's name right now, but I remember Fantastic Frankie brought this up too, that like his character was also dangerous because he believed so hard in the prophecy that he also pushed it.
oh, that's a perfect example of a zealot, of pure zealotry. You're not allowing any scrutiny. You are convinced this kid is Lisan Al Gaib.
Because literally he breathes. He breathed. Like there was jokes about this, but like TikTok jokes about this, but it was so true because like he could breathe, he could eat a sandwich, he could do anything, and he'd be like, "Lisa, this was as it was prophesized." Like, and it's so like it's dangerous too when you have too much faith almost.
And that's exactly it. Like that's control either by a prophet, by religion, by God, whatever you want to put it. Spice representing quite literally whether oil, gold, money, power, like wealth in general. That's sort of what moves the universe. Like oil moves our universe, like it powers up everything that we do. That's sort of the allegory. But like poor Paul did not sign up for any of this. Like his mother was not even supposed to have him. And I talk about Jessica quite a lot. For her to break the conditioning of Bene Gesserit, to have a love child with a man that she was supposed to have a daughter with, that's huge. That's huge.
Yeah, and like Loki slay, slay.
I mean, obviously, insertion of propaganda throughout the history, not cool. But Jessica, I love Jessica. I think she's.
I was like, I can't, like, she did so much wrong, but like, go off, girl. Good for you.
But the irony of like, because people need to be told, and I'm trying. I'm going to word this kind of carefully. Chani is a different character in the movies versus the book.
Okay, yeah, I have heard that before. Yeah,
So Chani is very a passive character, I would say. In Dune, she is very much on board, like Stilgar, with believing in Paul as the second
that was his name. Yes, yes, Stilgar.
Javier Bardem. Which again, hiring a Spanish white man to play Stilgar, it just drives me crazy. But oh,
I have a
we can
lot.
talk about it
That's why I
all.
will say I think the hiring, I think the casting for Dune Prophecy was great. I'm like really happy and proud of them because I feel like they actually listened to our criticisms in Dune's commentary and they did try. Like I think I was just so happy to see the Sisterhood and there were just people of color there. I was just like, yes, that's all we wanted. We just wanted some people of color.
Literally, and people of color, but like give them like actual active role in it. Like we'll see, with Theodosia, we'll see what she has to do with Inez. Like Valia is putting Theodosia next to Inez to gain her trust. For what purpose? Because they want the girl at the school, Inez, I mean, the princess. But now that the marriage is falling through, if they want to breed Inez with poor Pruitt when he's of age, but he's dead now, it doesn't matter. So what's the alternative? Like,
And then, so she's
I'm
already
very
hooked up
curious.
with the tradies. And like, I
That
don't know,
too.
that's gonna be
I'm
interesting. Oh,
very
we have to talk about that too. I was just like, what does that mean?
So, like, Karen is the swordmaster here, but he's also a descendant of Vorian Atreides, who was this big hero during the Butlerian Jihad that
Yeah, which
essentially
that was so
led.
subtle. Yeah, that was so subtle. I'm just like, you're just like, yeah, you're like a big deal. And I'm just like, he's just a casual Atreides here. Like,
They're not giving the actor much to do. There's like charisma of a basil plant. I'm sorry. Like I am feeling, give me nothing. And Inez, Constantine, Kieran, like I'm so bored. Let's give it, man. Give me Desmond. Give me Valya. Give me the sisters.
I know I really hope I really hope they're developing later. Isn't as the princess yet? Like there was just more to chew on. This episode, she got completely sidelined. I just feel like they got so sidelined this episode. Like, I'm just like, these aren't the characters.
All I got from her was girl boss energy, which I like.
That's exact. No, but that's unfortunately it. Because I'm just like, what's your motivation here? Like, there's none.
You want to study at the school, okay? Why?
Exactly.
Why
And
do you
like,
want
she
to
gave
hone in
like an
some skills?
exposition backstory, but I'm just like, I still
Literally,
don't understand why would I care.
why? Because why do I? Thank you. Why I don't care about any of this. Whether her brother, her, Karen. I mean, Karen is going to be important later because in a trailer, they like there's groups chanting Atreides, Atreides,
Yeah,
Atreides.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And we as the audience know the significance of Atreides. But again, this is like the whole like we said, they expect the audience to know what's important and what's high stakes because of our own knowledge and lore and background, rather than what the show is trying to give to us, which unfortunately is a problem with franchises, right? We've seen this all the time.
Like Lord Richezi had more like he was given more to do than any other character. He was completely unhinged. Like he had Javico Carino in the back of his hand until like Desmond shows up to cook him, and
Yeah,
like and I thought he was,
literally.
I thought he was gonna kill him, but I'm like he needs him. Like you don't get
Yeah,
to just kill noble lords. Like there's repercussions to these things. So it's just a
especially with
big
witnesses.
oh yeah.
He did
There's
it in
witnesses too.
broad daylight. I was like, Desmond, you need to be like, you have to
A
be more
little more
mindful.
subtle. A little more
Be
subtle.
demure. Be mindful. You're in broad daylight. When he started burning, I'm like, Desmond, come on.
I didn't finish my thought from earlier when we were talking about like what's HBO's plans with obviously they're doing Denis Villeneuve is doing Dune Messiah. So Dune Messiah exists because people read Dune and were like, oh my god, Paul is amazing. And Frank is like, wait a minute, that's not what you. But he, that's the fucking irony. That is, he seduced us like that. He literally proved in the book that we are the dumbest like species on in the universe. How easily seduced we are, because you can make excuses for Paul up until a certain point. Then once you get into the Lisan al Gaib and you are leading people, all the child who had no choice at the time, we're done. You know what I mean? So like to me, it's hilarious that Herbert was like,
And I think That's why it's so funny to talk about this this like series on like things like TikTok and stuff, because it's just like this is the place where nuance goes to die. So like yeah. And so like the fact that he had to write a whole book to completely explain to people like, no, you fell for the very lesson that I was trying to
Try
teach
to
you.
teach you. But
Like she's
that's how
saying, like this is not
seductive
the
these
place to have
ladies
this
are.
conversation. Yeah, that's why this prophecy. I'm like, it would be so interesting if they used Desmond as the inspiration, because then it would be so clever that like the Bene Gesserit, when they incept the Bene Gesserit, like the beginning of the Bene Gesserit, is like, oh, this is what we're going to be founded on, creating a false prophecy again. Um,
I don't know if it's
I
false
don't know, not false
prophecy.
prophecy, but like the propaganda of it. Maybe they figure out how to propaganda it, because Desmond's great at like selling himself as a.
But you know what I find interesting for now? Like the sisters are still not using spice. Now, at least not that it's shown. They're exclusively using the Rosak drug from Rosak plant. So yes, the spice helps them like heightens their like mindset, honestly. And sometimes like with the meta, what's basically like they can kind of like survive like what's the water of life. That's how you get to Jessica surviving water of life. It's a very strong spice concentration. Essentially spice is not the only mind altering drug. It will become exclusively that at some point, and even more potent than the Rosak drug, like even like way more like
Mm,
mind
okay.
cooking.
It's very interesting
So
to know that there was other drugs before. Like whenever you told me that, I'm just like, that's so fascinating. That like, and then spice becomes so. It's kind of like with us too. Like there's other sources of energy, but we end up focusing on oil.
correct. And spice is like only on Arrakis. So now like whoever controls Arrakis controls the world.
I mean, it gives me chills just thinking about it. Like the whole like propaganda of like we have to control Arrakis. The Fremen are wild. They're savages. It's just like, and then like, but there's always other. There were always other sources of energy and drugs, but like we have to focus on Arrakis though.
But that's so funny though. With Fremen, they have an entire culture, warrior way, like religion built in their sieges that are like so advanced. Like on the naked eye, you're looking at the planet and you see a bunch of people wearing like still suits and like head wrapped up in the eyewear to protect from doing like, oh, savages, wild people. But they have an entire like cultural system like built in their sieges. Like, and you saw the films; they're very like you can't even cry. It's a waste of your water. Like there's all these different rituals and all that.
It's also just like, oh, like their idea of like respect is like, spitting when they see someone, because they're like giving their saliva and their bodily fluids to someone, and they consider it like as rude, or almost like a slap in their face. And it's just like, this is just like, it just reminds me so much of how like the xenophobia, it just reminds me so much of like that, and it's so like, if this is the inception of all of that, like this is just it's kind of fascinating that they're going to take 6 episodes. Like, why wouldn't they just take 10 episodes to go into this?
And now, speaking of Fremen, you have a Fremen woman in Secundus, which
Which she wasn't even in this episode, right? Like, she was barely in this episode.
she's part of the rebellion that's cooking against the Corrinos.
Yeah, like, see, so much happened.
We're so obsessed with the prophecy in Desmond. There's like a lot that happened in this episode because
Yeah, no, like, there's so much happened.
Kieran is working behind the Corrinos' back to like record them, like the castle, and is feeding that information to Sam Spruell's character name is Horace. I took note of that because that actor is going to be playing King Makar and Duncan Egg coming next year. So the Fremen woman, Michaela, she's a barkeep, I believe. She's one of the sisters. Did she not?
Yeah,
Did you
yeah,
catch that?
she was. No, she was. And that's like when it all kind of clicked. I'm
How
just like,
did you?
wait.
How did a sisterhood get a Fremen woman to join Sisterhood?
And they never explained it.
We'll see. I am very very curious if like because you have Michaela, you have Desmond claiming that Shai Hulud took my eye but gave me power. Like I literally what he said. Like what if Michaela is gonna wait a minute? Wait a minute. Because again, Michaela, if she's Fremen, and obviously you can tell by the eyes, just the spice that she's consumed. How long has she been on Solus Secundus? How long has she been in Sisterhood? Like, is she gonna be able to contradict Desmond Hart?
Well, I mean, if anyone could it be her, I would assume, because like no one else has been able to. So like I guess we'll see.
I can't think of any other reason to have a Fremen woman in Bene Gesserit because they are a very reclusive culture. They keep to themselves. They don't just leave their sieges and their tribes. They just
And
don't do
they're very strong with their culture. Like they know
that.
what they
Very,
know. They know
very.
who they are.
They've
So
been
it's just like if
persecuted for.
anyone is going to cultural appropriate their own stuff, they're gonna call the BS on it right away.
They've been persecuted for so long. Like this is they're based on like Frank Cooper calls it Zensuni nomads that have been migrating for 2,000 to 3,000 years until they finally settle on Arrakis and take the name Fremen, free men.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That so if Michaela's supposed to be the adversary of of Desmond, ooh, I bet that would be like the showdown essentially, or like that's the only way.
And now it makes me wonder how much did she have influence over the Missionara Protectiva, which is essentially propaganda spreading machine that done by Bene Gesserit to suggest the Fremen for 10,000 years that a savior is coming.
Yeah, that's like because whichever way she goes with it, like if she had a lot to say with it or she was completely against it, it's going to say so much. Oh my god.
I need more of Michaela.
Yeah, no, I'm really glad. Like Michaela, I'm so happy that you and Kari like both brought that up because I'm like I did unfortunately forget about Michaela because like with Lila and everything going on with Desmond, I'm just like so much is happening with prophecy. I need to pay attention. But yeah, Michaela's definitely a sleeper cell.
I For me, like seeing a Fremen woman in non-Arrakis environment, like took me out. I'm like, I need more on this. And later, you're part of the rebellion, which you told Valya there is a rebellion. Like, oh, come on, damn. The Sisterhood, man, all for sister. So her fate is in the Sisterhood rather than in her people in Fremen, which is very very interesting. I like
I
that. I
know,
like
which is
that
like
direction.
bold, which is
It
so bold for
is.
her,
It's very
right?
cool. It's very, very cool. And I wonder just how much she would have influence over the Messina Protectiva if they go that far.
I mean, hopefully they get into it. The nice thing about this show, yes, it's like pacing and it's going a lot, is like they do cover their bases. They make sure to like talk about it. So I do think they will talk about that.
Yeah, they wrote down like Raina Butler mentioned Battle of Corin, Rosek Poison.
It was very lore heavy. This episode was so lore heavy. I feel like there was so much like backstory. It reminded me of that episode. It reminded me of like A New Hope when like Ben Kenobi just like name drops the Clone Wars. I'm just like, you're just gonna name drop things. Like, tell me more. You know, like it just like so. It was a very like lore heavy episode, but it's also like very much planting a lot too.
Rebellion is sort of interesting because again, from at least what I wrote, I need to rewatch the episode. Like they want to clean up Landstrad of corruption and the fact that apparently like Horus is accusing Corinos of hoarding spies because you're not supposed to stockpile it. That's the problem the Harkonnens will have 10,000 years in the future. But before because we're talking about prophecy, like I want to go back to Delilah one more time and her agony.
So like wrapping up like last minute prophecy theory, whatever. Go for it.
So, like, what did I write? Lila undergoes agony. Okay, so this is interesting. So she sees Raquel for a brief moment. First of all, like Tula tells her, always look to the light, allow your body to like neutralize the poison. That's how you survive agony. You're gonna see a lot of shadows and voices, and they're all gonna try to pull you. Which that's gonna be so interesting when they do Messiah for one reason for Paul. Yeah. Anyway, so like, go look for the light, and she sees Raquel, and she tells her the key to reckoning is one born twice.
Yeah. What does that mean?
A revenant full of scars, a weapon born of war, on a path too short. So, one born twice is probably Paul.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought, but I was just like, I might be wrong. So
He born as Paul and born as Lisan al Gaib.
because he did die, technically. Like that's what I'm just like, are they
He dies when he undergoes the spice agony. Correct? Yeah, he awakens. That's what awakens is prescience, and Paul is like him and his son later in the future. Like they are the ones like that can see through future, and not just like fragments, not just like short. They can see. They can exist everywhere all at once. So like Paul
Like
is a character.
Bran Stark.
Kind of, yeah. Like he can literally, like, especially Leto second. Like Leto even takes it like further and further.
Yeah,
Like,
later second. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
but one born twice. I was thinking Paul as when he dies, it
Well,
becomes
okay.
listen on
I
tape,
was
or it
also
could
wondering
be
if that. So what if they think that as Desmond because of him being eaten by Shai Hulud and then coming back? Like, what if they end up confusing that with him?
oh shit, you're right. A revenant full of scars, and he's got scars all over his face.
That's why I keep thinking like, is Desmond pretending to be Paul essentially? I keep thinking that, but I'm just like, but it doesn't make sense because Paul's like prophecy isn't even born yet. So I'm just like, what is he pretending to be? You know, because there's like obviously a long con with him, but I'm like, what is it?
The key to reckoning is one born twice. So if the sisters treat reckoning as the death of Bene Gesserit, right? Like it's reckoning, right? Technically, technically, Leto will dis- destroy Bene Gesserit.
And that's why we think that they're hinting
At
at
that,
that. Yeah.
he will essentially absorb the sisterhood into him under his control to
So it's like it's
essentially.
almost like a duet. It's almost as they're hinting at the future actual events, but at the same time they're talking about how they're going to be misconstrued with Desmond at the same time.
I I,
I think
I
they are
can't.
hinting at future events. Like it just feels so
No, they
embedded
are
within the
100%.
prophecy.
One born twice is definitely either Paul or Leto second. One born twice, like as Leto second, and the worm, the God Emperor.
Yeah, the worm. When he becomes a worm.
He becomes a worm. Would you love me if I was a worm?
We have a point. We ask these questions for a reason.
Again, these are just theories. Like they're not gonna go. I don't. I seriously doubt they're gonna go into God Emperor. I doubt it. But like, it's
But it
fun to
feels like
theorize.
it. It feels like it too, and that's why I sit there and question because I'm just like, what are they get? Like, are they getting at the series? Or are they getting at the future? And like, yeah, no, this is why I wanted to like discuss it. Yeah.
Let us dying words are like, yes, Ixians will make machines, but they will never make Arafal. I've
Ooh,
seen it.
I didn't know that. Okay, cool.
Arafan, no, I think that's what it's called. Arafan, yeah. But because that just means like darkness, fog. Basically, he predicts at some point that the machine is going to evolve so much that it's going to gain prescience and hunt us to extinction. It's freaky stuff. Like it goes really nuts. So I don't know if like Doom Prophecy, this show is hinting at Leto second. That's if they're doing that, Maria, like that is so ambitious. I can't even describe it right now. Like my brain is wrinkled if they're doing that.
I feel like I think that they're doing it like I think they're really being really smart about it. I think they're doing it in a way that seems enough to it be like Dune and Atreides and Timothy Chalamet, so like all the like as like the casual fans can be like, oh, I can like sink my teeth into this, but then they're also building for the long con. So I think they're playing it really smart that they're doing it both ways while also bringing in how it could be Desmond and how Desmond is like, maybe what kind of like drives the Bene Gesserit's actions of like pushing the propaganda narrative of the prophecy. So like I feel like the show is cooking. I feel like the show is
I
cooking.
think it's cooking something special.
Yeah, it's cooking.
And if you anybody that's listening to this, I would like if I were you and you're watching this and you're looking for this character study, if you're looking for like these slow moments that built, forget it. This is an exposition heavy, Dune lore
Yeah, this
heavy.
is
Like
lore.
this is lore show. It really
Yeah,
is. It's very
and
like
I appreciate that
yeah.
because like I
I
don't
don't
think
mind it. I
Dune.
don't mind it.
Yeah, no, because I feel like compared to a lot of like for example, we compared this to Star Wars. I don't know if we did this on or
Mhm.
off recording, but like Star Wars is so lucky that it's built the lore and that fandom, and I feel like Dune is trying to like kind of catch up. So this
To do
show
the
being
same
so
thing.
lore
Yeah.
heavy is good for us because it will build that type of like loyalty of like
Mhm.
the background of people who didn't read the books. Like
Yeah.
it's
No,
fine
for
to just like
sure.
Yeah, because my biggest thing with Dune was just like I wish I knew more about the lore, and now I'm watching this and I'm like, yeah, I'm like picking up on it quicker. So like I think if this is just a lore heavy show, I'm for
It
it.
is.
It's
And,
great.
and,
I'm
and
yeah
I think as long as viewers accept that and
yeah true
not want the show to be anything else, I think you're gonna have a good time. I think
yeah
it's cooking
and
something special. I really
yeah
am.
and they did a great job by like casting it well. The
Oh.
actors are phenomenal.
I was here for the casting initially. I didn't have
Yeah,
a lot of faith.
same.
I don't really like the trilogy of books that it's based on.
Yeah,
So that was kind of like, eh. Uh, but then I'm like, oh, Emily Watson, Travis Fimmel,
yeah,
what?
yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
Mark Strong. Oh,
yeah.
wait a
No,
minute.
that's what I was just like. Oh my god, like Tabu, like they really like
Yes.
just like Edwina from Bridgerton. Hell yeah, of
And
course.
the what's the actress's name? Yaren Ha, who's playing Sophie.
Yeah, I
She's
see.
one
I'm
of the.
like
She's Kasha.
exactly.
She's younger
Yeah,
Kasha, which I didn't
Kasha,
catch it.
exactly. Which sucked that
Wait,
she died.
Edwina and Sophie in the same show, in the same
I know,
scene.
I know.
Brain cooked. Brain
No,
cooked. I love it.
they cooked with the casting.
They
So I'm
did.
just like
They
I'm
did.
watching it for that, and then it just being lore heavy. I'm just like because they're executing it well because you have actors who are like committing to like actually whatever the show can't give us time with, the actors are committing with their performance. So like
Yeah.
it's
Oh, yeah,
good.
for sure. And it
Yeah,
looks gorgeous. Like the Walla Kanai looks
100%.
great. Salusa Secundus looks great.
Yeah,
Arrakis, we've only seen brief shots. Like Shai Hulud looks amazing,
yeah.
which I think that's Leto. I don't know.
Wait, is it Leto?
What if it is Leto?
Wait, sorry. This is wrinkling my brain. I need a
Because
moment.
wait, think of it this way. So what is the vision? It's Shai Hulud eating the school, right? Go back and watch the whole like sequence, the Raquel sequence. So it's not just Shai Hulud eating random ass building; it's eating the school, the Bene Gesserit school, the Sisterhood. So the reckoning
It's
and
Leto.
Leto,
It's
second being the
Leto.
worm, he's gonna absorb literally Bene Gesserit into his own under his own control.
Oh my god, that makes so much sense. That makes so much sense. Now I'm just like, oh,
Right?
at first I'm just like, why is the worm eating the school? Now I get it. Oh my god. Oh, they're cooking. They're
Oh
cooking.
yeah.
This is a long con.
They're
Okay.
doing it to
Before we
God
end,
Emperor.
because
Oh,
it's
like,
yeah, we gave ourselves like a buffer at 11. But are there any other
yes.
thoughts or theories that you want to bring up before, like thoughts about predictions for season episode 3, maybe even?
I have one prediction. I think this is how it's gonna go. Even some based on trailers. So I'm not gonna like
Yeah,
pretend this is all on me. It's trailer too.
yeah,
So Valya has a final confrontation with Desmond.
yeah,
She tries to use the voice on him to kill him,
yeah,
just like she did with Dorothea. Like in the
yeah,
trailer, they do it really well,
yeah.
like switching back and forth
Oh,
between younger.
it's so good. Chills.
There's
Yeah,
so literally
so
chills
good.
right now, and
Yeah.
you almost think that Desmond is gonna
Yeah,
do
yeah,
this.
no, because like, the way they ended, yeah, exactly.
The eyes are just like, oh, she can actually, but we know he's not going to die. We've seen the trailer again. The
Yeah,
suspension of belief is there. And then all of a sudden, he's just like, the eyes. Oh, you thought. But I'm very curious. Why didn't he just kill her there? Why couldn't he cook her? Very
I
curious. I wonder
I
if he
have
let her
no
go.
idea.
I wonder if he let her go on purpose. I think that's going to be revealed because he could have cooked her like he did with
I
Kasha, like he
really
would
feel like
threw
their
it with.
lineage of being a Harkonnen is going to benefit him somehow.
And speaking of Harkonnen, she is gonna finally go be a truth sayer for her family, for the Harkonnens.
And I
Because
feel like he wants to manipulate that. I don't know
it's
why. I don't
possible.
know what Desmond's plan is, but I just feel like
Mhm.
he knows that she has the power with the Harkonnens, and he wants that power too
Because
somehow.
keep in mind now that she has no control over Haviko Carino and the Golden Lion throne,
So she
because
has to go back to her family.
so she's going back to her family
And
to
I
her,
think that's what Desmond wanted for some reason. I don't know why. I just have
so
this
which
gut feeling.
so which means episode 3 we are headed to the Giedi Prime, which looks amazing in the movies. So like
Oh
everything
my
is
god.
so black and white and cool and
I'm
weird
so
and
excited to see
dark.
the Harkonnen. Oh my
Oh,
I'm
me
very
too.
excited to see the Harkonnens. I
Oh,
don't
I
know
love the
why.
heart. They're despicable. I love them.
Fade Rotha is a personal crush of mine, so yeah, I'm a big
I
fan.
don't blame you. I don't blame you. So like
I've never found Austin Butler attractive, except for whenever he was bald and albino.
Fade Rauta was supposed to marry daughter of Leto and Jessica,
Yes,
and that's
exactly,
Kwisatz and Jessica was like, I kind of like Leto and he wants a boy, so let me bring Kwisatz a generation early.
exactly,
Slay
exactly,
Slay Queen.
exactly. Slay. I can't even help but respect it. All right.
So
Okay, so
Yeti Prime next. So
on that note,
we're gonna finally
on
find
that
out what
note,
Desmond is,
yeah.
and that's all I have. Sorry, I'm
Yeah,
yapping
no, I
again.
like. I think the Harkonnen is. I think we haven't talked about the Harkonnen, so that my thought process was that I'm hoping we get back into their younger selves, and they go
Yes,
back into some backstory with Valya and Tula, like I
please,
Valya and Tula, because
please.
like and with the Harkonnens, I think that is my hope, and I think Francesca being introduced is going to be important. So I'm really hoping
Francesca
that happens. Yeah,
Francesca will probably come next episode.
yeah,
We might have a flashback on the younger Francesca to kind of tell
yeah,
us that Constantine
yeah.
is her son.
I'm
I think
hoping
that's what's coming.
that's my. That's not my prediction, but that's like what I hope for the next episode for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we sign off, I want to thank you for coming
Thank you
on our
for having me.
podcast today. Do you want people to let you know on what social media apps to follow you and your name, please?
Yeah, sure. You can follow me on TikTok and Blue Sky. I moved from Twitter to that. It's a little nicer when it
Valid.
comes to fandom spaces.
Yeah,
I still have my
valid.
old Twitter account. I'm going to keep it just because I am a glutton for punishment. You can find me under Lady Dragon JJ. I talk about nerdy stuff, whether it's Star Wars, whether it's Song of Ice and Fire, House of the Dragon, Duncan Egg, upcoming Dune. I love Dune, so you can follow me for those unhinged thoughts.
So, like, I was just saying, like, you're so good with like education and like explaining things. So, if you
I'm
need
good at
more
yapping
backstory,
nonsense.
I also like just like love your theories too, and like when we like go off on
I
our.
know I wrinkled your brain with Shai Hulud eating the Bene
No, you
Gesserit
did.
scroll.
I'm gonna go back and watch it again just because
Watch
I'm just
it
like I need to see it.
because I watched it twice. That's the school.
No, it makes so much sense now. So, like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna definitely watch it. Anyways, back to concluding. This is going to wrap up our episode. Sorry, Monica. This is going to wrap up our episode of Temple Geek Podcast. We want to thank everyone who tuned in today, and especially our guests for being with us today. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to hit us up on Facebook or Twitter by using the handle Temple of Geek. Do you want to check out some of our other podcasts or shows? Why don't you head over to templegeek.com where you can find all sorts of content that pertains to the world of geek.